All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Aldous Huxley's Brave New World.
Okay.
Um, and not just the novel itself, but also a foreword that he wrote years later,
Mm,
reflecting on his own predictions and how they've held up over time.
right.
So, I mean, what's fascinating here is that Huxley actually starts by admitting he missed the mark on something huge, like nuclear fission.
Yeah.
He just flat out says it was a failure of foresight not to anticipate the atomic bomb.
Well, and what's fascinating about that is that it immediately makes you think,
Right.
okay, well, if he missed something that monumental, what did he get right?
Exactly.
What were the insights that have really stood the test of time? And one of the most striking things is that he talks about the rapid advancement of technology,
Okay.
and particularly the harnessing of nuclear energy. Now, he wasn't talking about bombs in this context.
Right.
He was really focused on the potential for nuclear power to reshape industry and society as a whole.
So not weapons of mass destruction, but like power plants and all the ripple effects that come with them.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Huxley argued that this shift toward nuclear energy would lead to profound economic and social upheaval,
Okay.
and it would disrupt all the existing patterns of life that people were accustomed to.
So to manage that chaos, he kind of envisioned the rise of very powerful and centralized governments.
Yeah.
And I think this is where it gets really interesting, is that Huxley suggests that these future governments wouldn't just be powerful, they'd likely be totalitarian in nature.
Uh-huh.
He saw them as like a necessary response to the massive changes brought about by technological advancement,
Right.
a way to maintain stability in the face of like radical disruption.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
Huxley's concerns about technology and totalitarianism directly inform the world that he creates in Brave New World.
Mm-hmm.
The novel is essentially an exploration of what happens when those fears are taken to their logical extreme.
So let's talk about the world state itself. One of the most striking things about this society is its obsession with stability and happiness, right?
Absolutely.
They've gone to like extraordinary lengths to eliminate negative emotions and create a world where everyone feels like content all the time.
Absolutely. And Huxley uses some very vivid imagery to bring those methods to life.
Okay.
Think about the Bokanovsky process, for example. This is a technology that allows them to produce dozens of genetically identical humans from a single fertilized egg.
It's almost like a factory line for human beings,
Yeah.
just churning out these perfectly uniform citizens.
Exact.
And then there's hypnopedia, where they just instill beliefs and values while people sleep.
Right.
It's like brainwashing on a mass scale.
What's important to understand here is that Huxley isn't just making a point about the potential for technology to be used for manipulation.
Mhm.
He's also exploring the philosophical implications of this kind of engineered happiness.
Okay.
He's asking us to consider whether a life without struggle, without pain, without those so-called negative emotions, is truly a fulfilling one.
And that's where his concept of sanity comes into play, right?
Yes.
In the foreword, he talks about how his views on sanity actually evolves over time. Initially, he saw Brave New World as a demonstration of the impossibility of sanity in a world like the one that he created.
Right.
But later, Huxley came to believe that true sanity was achievable and even desirable.
Yeah.
And this shift in his thinking raised some really important questions for us as readers.
Huh?
What did he even mean by sanity in the first place?
Right.
And how does this concept connect to all the themes that he's exploring in the novel?
It's almost like he's asking us to define what it means to be truly human,
Yeah.
to live a meaningful life, and suggesting that maybe, just maybe, true happiness isn't about eliminating all discomfort or struggle. Maybe it's about embracing the full spectrum of human experience.
Yeah, the good and the bad.
Exactly. And that's something that Huxley explores further through the character of John, the savage, who comes from the reservation,
Right.
a place that exists outside the control of the world state.
Right.
John embodies a very different set of values, one that clashes directly with the world state's pursuit of stability and happiness at all costs.
So, in a way, John represents, like, the alternative.
Yes.
He's the embodiment of those, like, messy, complicated human emotions that the world state tries so hard to suppress. And his presence in the story really forces us to confront the question of whether something is lost in the pursuit of like total stability.
That's precisely why John's character is so crucial to understanding Huxley's larger point.
Okay.
He's not just a foil to the world state.
Right.
He's a representation of the human spirit's need for something more than just superficial contentment. He yearns for authenticity,
Okay.
for depth of experience, for something that the world state, with all its technological advancements, simply cannot provide.
And this conflict between John's worldview and the world state's ideology, it really comes to a head in his interactions with Mustafa Mond,
Yes.
the world controller.
Right.
Mond is essentially the embodiment of the world state's philosophy.
Uh-huh.
And he offers a very different perspective on the relationship between happiness and truth and stability.
What's striking about Mond is that he doesn't deny the validity of truth or beauty.
Okay.
In fact, he has this secret collection of banned books,
Oh, wow.
including works of philosophy, religion, even poetry.
Interesting.
But he argues that these things are potentially destabilizing forces, capable of disrupting the carefully crafted harmony of the world state.
So for Mond, happiness trumps everything else, even truth and beauty.
It's not that he dismisses truth or beauty as unimportant.
Okay.
It's that he sees them as potentially dangerous.
Interesting.
He believes that the pursuit of these things often leads to conflict, to suffering, to the very chaos that the world state is designed to avoid.
So he's basically arguing that a certain level of ignorance and emotional suppression is necessary for the greater good,
Right.
for the maintenance of societal stability.
Exactly.
It's a pretty chilling thought, isn't it?
It is.
This idea that we might have to sacrifice certain freedoms, certain intellectual and emotional pursuits in order to maintain, like, order and happiness.
It's definitely a provocative idea,
Yeah.
and one that Huxley forces us to confront. He's not necessarily endorsing Mond's viewpoint, but
No.
he's presenting it as a logical extension of the world state's philosophy.
Okay.
And by doing so, he's asking us to consider whether we might be making similar trade-offs in our own society, even if we're not fully aware of them.
It's like he's holding up a mirror to our own world, asking us to question our assumptions about progress and happiness.
And that's what makes Brave New World so unsettling,
Right.
so relevant, even today.
Yeah.
It's not just a story about a dystopian future.
Right.
It's a reflection on the human condition, on the choices that we make as individuals and as a society.
And that's what we'll be exploring further as we continue our deep dive.
Yes.
We'll be looking at how John navigates this collision of worlds.
Right.
How he grapples with the kind of seductive yet ultimately hollow allure of the world state. And we'll be unpacking some of the specific details and symbols that Huxley uses to bring these ideas to life.
Absolutely.
So buckle up, listeners, because we're about to delve deeper into the heart of Brave New World.
Okay.
Okay, so we've established that John, the savage, represents a very different set of values than those embraced by the world state.
Yeah.
But, like, how does this actually play out when he's, like, thrust into this unfamiliar environment?
Right.
How does he react to the world state's version of civilization?
Well, initially, John is, he's both intrigued and repulsed by what he encounters.
Okay.
He's drawn to the world state's technological advancements and its emphasis on pleasure and comfort. It's such a stark contrast to the harsh realities of life on the reservation.
Right.
But at the same time, he's deeply disturbed by the world state's kind of shallowness,
Okay.
its lack of depth and meaning, its suppression of genuine human emotions.
So he's almost like a tourist, experiencing culture shock on a massive scale.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
He can appreciate certain aspects of this new world, but he can't shake the feeling that something essential is missing.
Exactly. And this sense of dissonance really intensifies as John becomes more integrated into the world state.
Okay.
He forms relationships with characters like Lenina,
Right.
who really embodies the casual, almost robotic approach to sexuality that's so prevalent in this society.
Right.
But his attempts to connect with her on a deeper emotional level
Yeah.
are met with confusion and even resistance.
So it's like they're speaking different languages.
Yeah.
John is coming from a place where love, passion, commitment, like these things are still valued. But in the world state, those concepts have been like engineered out of existence.
Exactly. And this disconnect is so vividly illustrated in the scene where John discovers Lenina's bag.
Oh, yeah.
And he's overwhelmed by the scent of her perfume and the feel of her clothes.
Okay.
He experiences this surge of longing, this desire for a deeper connection. But for Lenina, it's all just like stuff.
Right.
She's incapable of understanding the intensity of his emotions because she's never been allowed to experience that kind of depth herself.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because you see John really struggling to reconcile his own values with the reality of the world state.
Yeah.
He wants to find a way to belong, to connect with people on a meaningful level.
Right.
But the more he tries to fit in, the more alienated he becomes.
This ultimately leads to his downfall.
Okay.
John becomes the symbol of resistance, a living embodiment of the values that the world state has tried to eradicate.
Right.
But his rebellion is futile. He's outnumbered, he's outmatched, and ultimately he's unable to find a place for himself in this new world.
So it's a tragic ending.
It is.
But one that raises some important questions for us as readers. Is Huxley suggesting that any attempt to resist this kind of like technologically driven, happiness-obsessed future is just doomed to fail?
I think it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Remember, Huxley himself believed that sanity was achievable.
Right.
He wasn't a fatalist.
Okay.
He didn't believe that the future was, predetermined.
So maybe John's tragedy is more of a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
A warning about the potential consequences of sacrificing our humanity in the pursuit of comfort and stability.
That's a very insightful interpretation.
Okay.
And it brings us back to Huxley's evolving views on sanity.
Right.
He's not romanticizing a return to some primitive past.
Right.
But he is suggesting that something essential is lost when we try to engineer all discomfort and struggle out of existence.
So how do we find that balance? How do we, embrace technological progress without losing sight of what makes us human?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And I think Huxley is intentionally leaving it open-ended.
Okay.
He's not offering any easy answers.
Right.
He's forcing us to grapple with these, these complex issues, to consider the potential costs of our choices.
And he's doing so with, a blend of satire and wit and genuine concern.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's not just doom and gloom prophecy.
Right.
There are moments of humor sprinkled throughout the book, even in the darkest scenes.
Absolutely. Think about those hypnopedic slogans, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
Phrases like, ending is better than mending,
Right.
the more stitches, the less riches.
Yeah.
On the surface, they sound like catchy advertising jingles.
Right.
But when you consider the context, they reveal a deeply unsettling truth about the world state's values.
Yeah, they're promoting a culture of instant gratification, of disposable relationships, of mindless consumption.
Right.
It's funny in a dark, twisted kind of way.
And that's part of Huxley's brilliance, I think.
Yeah.
He's able to make us laugh even as he's exposing the absurdity of this seemingly perfect world. He's highlighting the ways in which our desires can be manipulated.
Right.
How our values can be subtly eroded by forces that we might not even be aware of.
It makes you wonder, what are the subtle forms of conditioning that we're subject to in our own society?
Right.
Are we as free as we think we are? Or are our choices being shaped by forces beyond our control?
These are questions that Huxley is implicitly asking us to confront. He's not providing all the answers, but he's giving us the tools to start thinking critically about the world around us.
And that's one of the key takeaways from this deep dive. I think Brave New World is not just a cautionary tale about the future.
Right.
It's a call to action.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder to be vigilant, to question our assumptions, to fight for our humanity, even when it's uncomfortable.
And to hold on to those aspects of ourselves that make us unique.
Yeah.
Those messy, complicated emotions that the world state tries so hard to suppress.
Right.
Because ultimately, it's those very qualities that make life worth living.
And that brings us back to Huxley's concept of sanity.
Yes.
True sanity, he seems to be suggesting, is not about eliminating all discomfort or struggle. It's about embracing the full spectrum of human experience.
Yeah.
The highs and lows, the joys and sorrows, and finding meaning and purpose within that complexity.
It's about recognizing that there's more to life than just, fleeting pleasure and manufactured happiness.
It's almost like he's saying that true happiness isn't about avoiding pain or discomfort,
Right.
but about finding meaning and purpose, even in the midst of those challenges.
Exactly. He's suggesting that maybe those negative emotions that the world state tries so hard to eradicate actually serve a vital purpose.
So instead of numbing ourselves with Soma or distracting ourselves with mindless entertainment.
Right.
Maybe we should be like leaning into those uncomfortable feelings,
Yeah.
exploring what they can teach us about ourselves and the world around us.
It's a radical idea
Yeah.
in a culture that often equates happiness with ease and comfort. But it's a concept that resonates really deeply with Huxley's own life and his evolving views on what it means to live a meaningful life.
And it connects back to something you mentioned earlier
Yeah.
about Huxley's comparison of modern society to the savages of Samoa.
Right.
What do you make of that analogy?
Yeah.
Is he being like ironic, or was there a deeper point he was trying to make?
I think Huxley was deliberately provoking us with that statement.
Okay.
He wasn't, romanticizing so-called primitive cultures,
Right.
but he was questioning the assumptions that we make about progress and civilization.
Okay.
He was asking us to consider whether we might be losing something valuable in our pursuit of comfort and technological advancement.
So it's not about rejecting technology altogether,
Right.
but about using it mindfully and intentionally.
Exactly.
Not letting it dictate our values or determine our experiences.
Precisely. And I think that's one of the most important takeaways from Brave New World.
Okay.
It's a reminder that we have a choice in how we shape the future. We can choose to be passive consumers of technology, allowing it to, control our thoughts and emotions.
Right.
Or we can choose to be active participants, using technology as a tool to enhance our lives, not, diminish our humanity.
It's a powerful message.
Yeah.
And one that feels especially relevant today, given the rapid pace of technological change that we're experiencing.
Right.
It's easy to feel like overwhelmed by all the new gadgets and platforms, to get like caught up in the relentless pursuit of the next big thing.
But Huxley's work reminds us to slow down,
Right.
to step back and ask ourselves some fundamental questions. What are we striving for?
Yeah.
What kind of world do we want to create? And how can we use technology in a way that aligns with our values and enhances our humanity?
It's a call to be like more mindful,
Yeah.
more intentional, more aware of the choices we're making,
Right.
and the potential consequences of those choices.
And to remember that the future is not, predetermined.
Okay.
It's something that we're actively creating through our actions and decisions every single day.
So what does this all mean for us,
Right.
for the listener who's been on this deep dive with us into Brave New World?
Yeah.
What's the key takeaway you hope they walk away with?
I think the most important takeaway is that Huxley's message is ultimately one of hope.
Okay.
He wasn't a pessimist.
Right.
He believed in the power of individuals to make a difference.
Okay.
He believed in the importance of, critical thinking, of questioning assumptions,
Right.
of engaging with the world around us with open minds and open hearts.
And he believed in the power of stories
Yeah,
to challenge our perspective
absolutely.
and inspire us to create a better future.
Brave New World is not just a dystopian novel.
Right.
It's a call to action. It's a reminder that we have agency,
Right.
that we can choose to shape the world around us.
So if you're feeling inspired to delve deeper into these ideas,
Yeah.
we encourage you to seek out more of Huxley's work.
Yeah.
He was a prolific writer and thinker
Absolutely.
who explored a wide range of topics,
Yeah.
from philosophy and religion to art and politics.
And if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by the complexity of the world we live in, remember that you're not alone.
Right.
We're all in this together. And by engaging in these conversations,
Yeah.
by questioning our assumptions, by striving to be more mindful and intentional in our choices, we can collectively create a future that's more just, more humane, and more fulfilling for everyone.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Brave New World.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you found it as thought-provoking and insightful as we did.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
And remember, the future is not set in stone.
Yeah,
It's up to us to shape it.
it is.
So go out there and be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
And until next time, happy diving.